Hello. So welcome to the Ask Me Anything about Untrapping Product Teams. See already a few people joining. So hope you're having a good time. Let's see how it goes. I will just take a few minutes until everyone else can join. Hope everyone got the LinkedIn access to the YouTube channel. Let's see how it goes. All right. It's a very sunny day here, so let's see if a lot of people will join or will prefer to enjoy summer. Because today, actually, it's 27 outside, so it's really nice. So for those who are already in the call, please just confirm if you can hear me well and see to ensure everything is fine, so I'm not talking just for nobody. So I hope you can hear me, and then we can go. So you can comment and then we'll see here. Good. So I see already someone commenting that is fine. So thanks for that. I'm going to start soon here with some things. But maybe you could just write in the chat where you're talking from, where you're joining, just to get to know a little bit about you before we start collecting questions and going through presentation. I prepared something for you today. You can share a little bit about the book and so on. So let's see what you have. Good, good. So maybe just giving a little bit of overview to you. So I see someone from France already. Nice, nice. So I'm joining from Munich, Germany. And what's going to happen today? We are going to talk about the book. You will have the chance of asking several questions. There were loads of subscribers, more than 500. To understand, it's a very sunny day, and listening to me talk might not be the most interesting choice, but let's worth the time of those who join. I'm going to add here a little bit of a presentation I prepared for you, and then we can go from this part. So I'm going to talk about this guy here, Untrapping Product Teams, and you will have the chance of asking me anything. I will share some material with you, and we will have a talk about it. So hello, Anna, from Lisbon, a very beautiful city. Love Lisbon. It's quite nice. So for those who already know my book, it was released about a month ago. It has received quite a lot of support. I'm really delighted for all these people helping me bring this book to life. I did my best to treat the book as a product. So I used that incrementally, learned from a lot of people. We had 5 rounds of beta readers. So there were people from all over the world providing feedback. It was hard to navigate on the feedback and decide what I wanted to keep in the book. In total, more than 30 people and 5,000 feedback I received on the book. And in the end, we came up with this. There were 5 rounds of feedback, and I published with Pearson. There were 5 editors working on the book, and so on. So I see that some of you are already reading the book. That's good. And I will give you some insights of what is inside this book here and why you should bother. I have a few copies here. There's one here in my hand and other on shelves. And that's about the book. But I want to ensure that we have some fun here. And those joining will benefit from this. I'm going to post here a link of a Mentimeter chat. And we're going to have a little game here. So what I want is to know what you expect to get from this session. So you can use the link I just posted in the chat, or you can just use here, go to menti.com, can use the number, or just read the QR code. The very first thing, I want to know what you expect from the session today. And I'm going to tell you if I can deliver on that or not. So curious to hear what you expect from the session. Let's see what you want. And then we're going to have a little game here. I prepared a quiz for you. And those who already joined, you have the chance of winning a premium subscription of my newsletter. Of course, if you want, if you say, I don't want to receive your emails, then you can donate to somebody who probably wants. So knowledge, I share stories. Maybe you can get some knowledge. Hands-on advice. I'll do my best to give you some hands-on advice on what I prepared. And it will depend also on the questions you ask. We will collect questions on the way. We'll just bring some things here and so on. Backlog management. Interesting. If someone asks that, I will answer. By the end, I'm going to share a product delivery health check with you. And then you can decide if you want to use that hint some things could do differently in backlog management. New ways of working. I will share the fundamentals of product management, a little bit of a discovery journey. So you see some things related to that. Ways of asking why. Didn't plan to cover that. But maybe it's a question you can ask, and I can answer this question later. Product discovery. We approach this a little bit. Based on what I'm seeing here, yeah, probably you're going to get some benefit. For those spending the time now on this very beautiful evening here in Europe, I see some people from Cologne. I guess in Cologne is nice. Lisbon is nice. Also France should be nice now. Now let's do the game here. How is it going to be? So join this now. It's the same link. Please go to this Mentimeter. I will wait for more players to join. And then I will start. The sooner you answer, the more points you can make if the answers are correct. So let's just wait for a few more people to join. I see more people in the live. And then we are gonna go. Just 5 questions, very simple questions. More players are joining. Yeah, let's go. I'm going to hit the button, and for those joining now the session, you can just use the Mentimeter link here. I posted in chat, or you can use the QR code and join here. It's worth a prize, a premium subscription to my newsletter. More than 300 posts, including few guides, product discovery guide. I saw someone wanted that. There's also strategy guide, delivery guide, and so on. So let's start here. What's product strategy for you when you look at that? What is the meaning of this? A vision, a plan, and solid conditions to get there. Clarity on where to land and what matters. An unchangeable set of artifacts teams must follow. What is it for you? What do you perceive? Curious to the answers you are bringing here. All right. So why is not the first? Look at this. Solid conditions to get there. Strategy chains. Strategy should not be written in stone. That chains. So that's why it's the second one. It's clarity on where you want to be and what matters. It's kind of giving the constraints to simplify decision making. Next question, which you imagine what it's gonna be. The first was product strategy. Now, what's product discovery for you? A process to gather requirements, a way of learning from real users and uncover value drivers, a method to ensure you create value with features you deliver, an approach to validate user interface with customers. Good, this one was easy. So for the one who put the third option, the word ensure here is the tricky. So you cannot ensure you create value from the features you deliver. Product discovery will help you increase the chance of delivering value, but you still are going to create some features that in the end, they don't fly. So you need to kick them out. Third question. See more players joining. That's cool. Thanks for that. What's product delivery for you? A way to produce what creates value, a steady process that maximizes output. The next step after product discovery, the best part to outsource when creating digital products. So what do you see? Let's see. Easy again. It is all about creating value. I know that sometimes we may be pushed to deliver features, but the features are just means to an end. The goal is not the output, but the outcome. Last but one question, and we are going to see who is the winner. Which statement sounds right? PM defines strategy, PO executes it. Leadership sets direction, teams figure out how to get there. Leadership sets direction and define how teams should get there. So what do you think? Curious to learn from you. So the first one is generally a polemic thing. And of course, it depends where you are. There's the ideal road, and sometimes the real road is just persistent and being different. So product manager is a job, and product owner is an accountability. Now at Scrum Guide 2020, it was a role before. It means that the PM is the best person to fill the shoes of the product owner, one person end-to-end responsibility. But maybe work with SAFe, which I dare to say that is the undercover waterfall agent. And then the PO would be the one executing and PM defining the strategy, which I don't recommend for different reasons. We could have a chat about it. But sometimes that happens, and yet you need to figure out how to drive value. The best way is the second. So that's why I put which statement sounds right, because that is the desired one. Last question. So last question, and then we're going to see who is going to win the prize. How often should a strategy be reviewed? Once it's working, don't change it. Once a quarter, once a year, as often as necessary. All right. So once a quarter, it depends. It might be that it makes sense for you. As often as necessary, of course. Context matters. If you are in a startup pre-go to market, big chance you're going to change that as often. Once you hit the market fit, you start changing less often. And if you are a very established corporation, might be that your strategy lasts a year or two. It depends. You need to know the game, but you should ensure that it changes. Signs that need to change. You start targeting a new audience. There's a new competitor landscape. You discovered something that changes how you play the game or makes your business obsolete. So that would be a reason to start changing. But now, let's see who is the winner. Edu, congratulations. So you take a screenshot that you won this, drop me a LinkedIn message, and then you get a premium subscription. Congratulations. Great. Thanks for participating in this. And now we're going to go through a little bit of presentation here, what I want to share with you. Theory versus reality, the world how it is. I was thinking what I would share with you today. And one of the things that came to my mind is that when you are playing the digital product game, theory and reality, they tend to go in different directions. So let's say you started working on a company, and when you read that job description, it seemed that you would be empowered and everything would be perfect. And the interviews went the same way, and you expected to be like that. But once you go to reality, things go in a very different direction. And yet you have to drive value. The question is how? So you need to understand reality, and then you can figure out what to do. But let's discuss here what it is supposed to be. I call this as the promised land. This is where we want to be. Let's look at the product manager here. Perceive this role as the ultimate responsible for driving value. That's what I call a product manager. Some place will call differently as a product owner and so on. But here is the one who uncovers what drives value and figure out how to create that together with the team. So this person in theory is a decision maker. You call the shots, what to do, what not to. You define where to land. You craft the product vision. You also set the strategy, the constraints that will enable you to get to your product vision, what not to focus on, how you play the game. You will also uncover ideas that are worth pursuing, and then you you just drop all the others that distract you from what's worth pursuing. You partner with business, you work hand in hand. And when it comes to roadmaps, you craft outcome ones so you can adapt on the way to what drives what you expect. You talk to customers as often as necessary. You have direct access to them. Ultimately, you maximize value for the business and customers. So that's what you do. That's the promised land. Is that what you're doing now? You can leave the comments here in the chat if this is exactly what you're doing. Just leave it there. And I'm going to talk a little bit about reality now. Even change the color here. Harsh reality. You become a decision follower. Someone is going to call the shots and you have to deliver on that. You will have limited decision scope. And vision, well, if you're lucky, you have some vision. Biggest chance is you don't have a vision that is used. Strategy, you follow, you don't set. Somebody else is going to set the strategy. And kind of, instead of uncovering ideas worth pursuing, you just bet on features and you hope for the best. It's kind of a bet all in if you play poker. And you don't partner with business, you aim to please them. And of course, roadmaps are going to be output oriented. And instead of talking to customers, those who are going to use your product, pay for it, you talk to business, the ones who know best what you should be creating. And in the end, you maximize features nobody needs. I faced this reality several times in my life. Sometimes I just complained and then I moved to another job. Other times I thought I was the problem. I didn't know how to figure it out. And the truth is, you can always do something, but you need to face reality and see what is happening. Just making a quick comparison here of what we talked. The promised land is where you maximize the value for both sides, customers and business. The harsh reality is when we talk about business wants and we actually don't even know what customers need. It's very hard to get to this information. When you are on the promised land, delivering value is just a piece of cake. You have all elements you need. You just need to work it out. Sadly, this is the world of a few product managers, not most of them. And the harsh reality, well, when that happens, delivering value is almost mission impossible. It's a big challenge, but we need to do something to drive value. The question is, how do you drive value when everyone distracts you? Everyone pushes you in different direction, and it's very hard to drive value. So I want to have a quick reality check with you here. I have another Mentimeter, and we are gonna look at this now. I'm gonna drop here a link for you. So we have the reality check. I will just copy the link. You can also use the QR code here. You can just go to Mentimeter, menti.com and put the numbers, or use the QR code, or just use the link I just posted. I want to hear from you. How often do you see the following in your reality? If you see that very often, that output comes before outcome, then you put almost always. If you see that opinions talk louder than evidence, that's almost always. What about roadmaps? Are they related to prescriptiveness, or they empower you to embrace the unknown? And what about deadlines? Do they come before goals or after? And what about solutions? Do they come before the problem? So you start talking about the solutions, you get excited about it, and then nobody knows which problem you're solving. So this is one of the things I address in the book. It is in chapter 2, and it's what I call as the dangerous anti-patterns, because this can be present everywhere. The thing is about understanding. It's unlikely you can change everything at once, but you need to see what is happening in your organization. Then you can drive change. This is a check I like doing. I encourage everyone to do with your teams to see what is happening. In the perfect world, you want to see this to the never. You don't want to start with output. You don't want to start with opinions or to hold opinions higher than evidence. You can start with opinions, but then you need to move to evidence, and evidence should always talk louder than opinions. So this is one of the things. Let's face reality. And then once we face reality, we maybe can change it. So we look at this and say, what is one thing we want to do differently? If I would look at these numbers here, I would say maybe we could start talking about what we want to achieve, the outcome. But now that we see this part of reality, let's talk about the real enemy. There is an enemy that we have here, which we need to be careful. And what is the enemy? First, let me give you another Mentimeter where we are going to collect the question. So you can already start dropping the questions in the Mentimeter. I will just give you the link. And then after I finish this presentation, which is going to take just a few more minutes, I'm going to check the questions you put there and address them. So this is going to be the link I posted in the chat, so you can just open and put your questions there. Whatever you want to ask about the book or about product management, I will gladly answer to you. So just put the questions, and in the meantime, I'm going to share some more things with you. I talked about the real enemy. And what is the real enemy, and why am I talking about this? Well, the story of my life is many times when I was pushed in opposite directions, I realized that I was doing anything but product management. And I wanted to find a name for that. And the name I found is bullshit management. And bullshit is just, it's kind of an art. It's the art of spending time doing things that brings no value but drain your energy. If you don't know what you are doing, and you don't know which value it creates, most probably you're doing some kind of bullshit. And there's an equation behind it, which you should be very much aware of it. The more bullshit you handle, the less value you create. It's sad, but we need to know when we are doing bullshit. But if you feel like you're doing bullshit, no worries. I have been doing that for a big part of my life. I still do a bit of that, even though I try my best to avoid it. Sometimes I get in the middle of that. It happens. And here are a few aspects. The bullshit management check. The same. If you would do this check here, you would like to see things on the blue side, not on the red side. For example, focus on requirements. You don't want to be a waiter. You want to be a value maximizer. What about the backlog promises? You don't want to be a backlog manager, you want to be a product manager. What about consensus-driven decisions? I don't think you would like to have watered down decisions, because consensus is an art. It's the art of creating the worst possible option that was not even on the table. So everyone weigh in without evidence based on opinions, and then pow, everyone commits to something no one agrees. Yeah, that can happen. There are many more. Some was already bad enough meeting marathons. Before COVID, we had lots of meeting, but there was a physical limitation, number of meeting rooms and number of seats. And today what we have, endless amount of meeting rooms and endless amount of seats. That means more meetings with more people. Don't think that's right. So there are a few items here that you can have a look and just check what is happening. In the book, I detail all of that to help you understand and break free from that. Because one thing is, you cannot avoid bullshit. It's all over the place. The art is when you master how to create value out of all of this noise distracting you from driving value. What about the right ingredients? There are a few things that if you bring to the product game, you're going to increase the chance of creating value. And for me, the product management fundamentals would be them. When you align product strategy with discovery and delivery, you have high chance of creating value. And strategy, it is all about simplifying decision making. Delivery, about uncovering what creates value. Discovery, uncovering what creates value, and delivery, building what creates value. But this is not a waterfall. They are highly intertwined. One depends on the other, and one helps shape the other. You set a strategy, and then you discover something, you realize your strategy actually was not the right one, so you can tweak a little bit. When you deliver something and you confront with reality, maybe that's not what your customers need. What are you going to do? So you use this to improve your value engine, so how you create value. So these are the fundamentals. And the thing is, there are multiple ways of applying product strategy, discovery, and delivery. There's not one single way that works. The most important, actually, the tool, if you are asking what tool matters most, there's a tool that generally stays behind the ears. It's called the brain, the mindset. This is the most important tool. Once you create a value-driven mindset, you increase the odds of driving value. Now let's just go a little bit deeper here on one of the aspects. I took the product discovery because here lies many opportunities. And product discovery could be quite helpful if you understand the goal you want to achieve. Start with the goal. What does success look like? What are you trying to do? And the goal will depend a lot on your context. But what I like is having a set of attributes. What does success look like? Which trade-offs can we make? And which guardrails should we pay attention to? It's kind of understanding the game you're going to play. Many companies, for example, say, I want to increase conversion rate. I say, oh, that's easy. Just drop the price 50%, increase that immediately. Say, yeah, but I want still to remain at the same profitability level. Say, oh, okay, so you should protect profitability. But what is something we could sacrifice? Then maybe you learn you could increase the customer acquisition cost. So start by understanding where you want to land and which cards you have and the ones you don't. And then strive to understand your audience. Get out of the office or behind your own home office. Go and meet customers to understand what is natural for them, not what is rational. What kind of jobs they are trying to achieve, when do they do it, and what matters to them. And you realize that there are many things you could drive value from what you discover there. And I'm using the word value driver because I want to ensure everything we pick to do drives value. You're going to see here different words in the product world, like opportunities. Teresa Torres used that a lot. And opportunities would mean more or less the same thing. But not all opportunities are worth pursuing. Some are not going to drive enough value for the business or for customers. And we may get distracted because they may excite us. So I like using the word value driver to remind us that our job is to drive value. But you will always have more value drivers to pursue than you have capacity to. You need to prioritize and focus. And don't go wild on a crazy framework. It is more like a bet. So make incremental bets. And then you think about the future. What do you want to see? Ideate with your team, explore things. And when you ideate, be sure that you deal with assumptions. Because if you don't, you're going to realize something doesn't work too late. So, how do you know customers will understand how to use it? How do you know that they would buy your product? These are assumptions. You may assume they know how to use it, you may assume they would buy. But if you don't have enough evidence, you are betting very high. And with evidence, you can decide what to progress. And you may look at this and say, David, this is just a waterfall. No, it's not actually. This is a journey. And guess what? You are the driver. You are not a passenger. As a driver, you choose when to drive where and for how long. What do I mean by that? You need to make decisions. For example, you know the goal you are supposed to pursue, and then you uncover a few value drivers. You come up with some ideation there, and you deal with the assumptions. Once you test the assumption, you realize that that value driver is not something you can create a solution that will actually benefit your customers and the business. What do you do next? Maybe you drive back. You go and explore different things with your customer. And maybe you realize that there's a strong potential there on a different goal that you were not addressing. What about exploring that? So as a driver, you are going to drive forward when necessary or backward, but you need to decide. And sometimes you skip something if you're confident, but you need to ensure you don't fall as a passenger, sometimes not even know who the driver is. Another aspect you can do to understand how to improve how you work is to challenge the status quo. Step back, ask people, what do they see? In the book, I gave several health checks. And today, I remember one of you asked about backlog management. I prepared here the product delivery health check for you. So for this, look at your implementation. How do you structure that? Do you build it right from the beginning, like no technical debt, high test coverage, everything is perfect? But then it takes very long for you to learn if it's right. And once you learn that, you struggle to throw it away. Or do you first build to learn, then to scale? That means you dare to use technical debt. You build something that you know it's not perfect, but enables you to learn faster. And if it doesn't work, you just throw it away. The trash bin is your friend. And how do you measure results? Velocity is all that matters, or outcome, results? And do you dare to remove features? Sometimes you can add value by subtracting distracting features. It's not natural for most people to do that because once we invested into something, we don't want to lose. But actually, if you keep distracting features, you are losing already because you are distracting customers. So if features are not delivering value, you need to remove them. Ensure that you don't keep features that distract customers there. And how do you treat failures? Once you fail, do you keep avoiding them at all costs as a byproduct killing innovation? Or do you learn from failures and share with others? Now look at your backlog. What do you see there? Is it like a 6-year-old Christmas wish list? Or only what contributes to your objective remains there? I like having an extreme backlog cleaning strategy. If you haven't touched something over the last 3 months, it's good to go. Everything that is important come back to you. And if you have a new goal, you should maybe review your backlog. Even you can dare to delete the backlog so you have the right conversations. Don't get stuck with the past, because if you're driving forward looking backward, you are going to crash the car. So that was it for the talk, and I'm going to see the questions you have. You can join my newsletter for free with 19,000 other followers there. And for those who stayed here until the end, there's a little present for you. If you want to get the book, you can get from Pearson. If you go to this link here, you're going to get to my website. And there's a voucher, Pereira, my family name, and you get 35% off. But pay attention. This is only on Pearson's website. If you try that on Amazon, it's not going to work. And on Pearson, you can get the digital version immediately, or you can get the printed version. They will ship worldwide, but then you would need to pay taxes and so on, and you can decide what fits you best. But that's it, 35% off. I hope you enjoyed. Now I'm curious if we have questions here. I haven't looked at that. So let's see what we have. Oh, I have 7 questions here. So let's see the most voted questions, how it is. I will just go through the questions and see. I would like to invite you now to take a few, maybe 1 or 2 minutes to vote on the questions you'd like me to answer first, because I would select the most voted question to answer first. So you can go there and give your thumbs up before I select the questions. I see 7 already, quite interesting. So please vote on the questions you want to see first. I'm just looking at the ones we have. I see already 1 or another vote here. For everyone else participating, please just share your votes and then we can go there. I think it's already structuring here for the most voted on top. Oh, it's changing already. Nice. Okay. So I would start. I will pick one here and we go from there. Thanks. How do you prioritize feature requests from sales team and customer? It will always depend on the game you're playing and the context. But what I suggest doing is to do your homework. So you need to have something to anchor to. So if you try going on a this feature is important, this feature is not important, this is and so on and so on and so on, you are going to struggle. When you do your homework, for example, remember I said the strategy, and for me strategy has a few elements. It would contain your vision. It would also contain what you are doing now. What is most important for you now? For example, if you are in a go-to-market phase, for you probably it's most important to get customers. But if you are in a growth phase or maturity of your product, maturity, you want retention. So it depends on the game you're playing. So you set your strategy, you clarify what you're doing, and then you define the current goal you are pursuing. And you ask questions. If you're talking to the sales team, ask questions. How does this contribute to our strategy? How does this enable our current goal? And you can also ask questions like, how do you know this is the right thing to do? What does success look like? And instead of committing to features, which would be the next step, after you ask these questions, you don't proceed until you get convincing answers. And if you get convincing answers, don't implement the feature immediately. Think about how can you increase the chance of this feature going right. You need to test your critical assumptions as fast as possible. For that, you can run some product experiments. And with customers, of course, today we all think we know best which features are going to work and so on, and we like giving suggestions on features, but we need to understand what the customers are trying to achieve. And then you see if the feature actually is the most suitable way. So try understanding what is the job behind the feature request. And as a product manager, you should be able to decide whether that goes to the product or not. I hope that helps. So I'm going to take another question now. How should we measure results? By features, by value creation? What are some best practices? It depends on your product. It's hard to say what are the best practices without knowing your product exactly. But I generally discourage measuring by features, because features are very dangerous. If you're measuring by features, you may end up with a feature bloated product that is connected to measuring by velocity. Think about what are you trying to achieve, and then that would be what you should measure. If you are trying to grow your business, you can start like, do we see signs of customers signing up? That's the first thing, sign up rate. Do you see customers continuing your platform? That's retention. Do you have growing revenue? So look at that. So value in this case would mean something for the business. And you need to see on the customer side, are they benefiting from that? How often are they using your product or something like that? So a good practice would be you understand which jobs customers are trying to do and how you are delivering on that. And then you define your North Star metric. For example, if you look at Airbnb, they measure value by nights booked. So how many nights are booked per day? So that's what they want to measure. Instagram would measure, for example, how many users are active per day, because what they do business with is with attention. As a user, you give your attention and then they sell that to advertisers. So best practice is understanding your business model, what you drive for users, for customers, and what is necessary for you, and then you can measure. But start with the strategy, know what you are pursuing, and then you work backwards from there. Oh, there are a lot of questions coming here. Let's go. Let's see how far we can go. How should we, as product folks align with R&D's agile push when there is not an understanding of the end goal of business pain points? How would product define value creation with aligned goals? That's a tricky question, which I probably don't know how to answer. I'll be honest. When it comes to R&D, that sounds for me something like a separated area working on the discovery, trying to uncover what could drive value and so on. And then sending this to other people to work on that, kind of throwing over the fence. Generally, this doesn't work in the new modern way of digital products. Because digital products, what is important is to have product teams with end-to-end responsibilities. So I would not know how to answer that. I would imagine that leadership needs to step in and start doing things differently. If you are involved on that, what I would suggest you to do is to convince people to do experiments. For example, what could you do there? If you receive things from R&D and you realize they are not delivering value, you can challenge them. Try naming the assumptions, prioritizing, and running experiments. Another thing you could do is run some feature reports and see what was used. For example, we created hundreds of features over the last 12 months. Try comparing the value that these features delivered. And you may realize that most of the features don't really deliver value. Then you can challenge, can ask, is it the way we want to work? Maybe you can get support to do things differently. But creating digital products, having a separate R&D, it's something a bit complicated to see it working. That's why I cannot answer this precisely, because I haven't been part of that. What tools are you using to collaborate with software engineers? Well, the best tool to collaborate is to talk to them and get them involved on exploring what you want to create for the future. One of the mistakes I have seen with many product managers would be something like, you write user stories so perfect that the teams can code without talking to you. In this case, you demote software engineers to coders. You limit them to doers. I don't like that. I like treating software engineers as part of the product team. I see the following. Product folks are responsible for the why. Why are we doing what we are doing? And the what we figured out together. What are we trying to solve? What are we trying to achieve? And the how is a collaborative game. You explore the solution together and so on. So conversation is the best way of collaborating. That's how I see it. I wouldn't see a different way. For sure, I would discourage anyone from writing requirements and just dropping things for software engineers to do it. That doesn't work. And this reminds me one of the things when I was writing the book. It took me a while to write one sentence there, really a while, which was I have been reflecting for very long. What is the real challenge of product management? At some point of my life, I thought the real challenge was choosing which framework to use, the process we are going to work with. But then later I realized it doesn't matter the framework and the process. What really matters is how we collaborate with each other. It is all about people and collaboration. So if software engineers, they're just people. We need to collaborate closely with them. Let's see what else we got here. Which and how many fixed meetings do you have in your calendar? Fix, check-in, etc. Well, I have a few, but I'm leading the organization, so we try keeping the organization as flat as possible. But one thing that we do there is we may have recurrent meetings. That's true. But I wouldn't have more than 15 hours in my case of recurrent meetings per week. But if the agenda of the meeting is empty, we just don't show up. We just don't go there. So we have a goal for each meeting and we have an agenda. And we put agenda points there. And before the meeting, we just ask in the chat, is there anything we should be talking? No, there's nothing. Then we don't show up. So you can have recurrent meetings. They wouldn't be the problem. The problem is doing them for the sake of doing. And I would tell you, if you cancel the meeting 3 times in a row, then just cancel the whole series. You don't need that. The core part is meetings are not bad. What is bad is unprepared meetings and just going there, getting more people than you need, and some people just watch. So think what you are trying to achieve and who you need for that. Share the goal with the others and the agenda in advance. You don't need to exchange with your people to see what is happening, no matter which position you have. And talking is the way of doing that. When we write, we think a lot. We may change what we write and so on. And when we talk, we can just say what is happening. I always like thinking I am working in the office because the best things I have done actually happened when I was in the office, and they happen over a coffee talk. I would just go and talk to someone, and then we would have an insight and we would move from that. So you don't need a meeting to talk to someone. You can just call them and have a conversation. So keep it as lean as possible and keep an agenda. Don't go to the meeting just to say, oh, we don't have anything to talk, then waste everybody's time. When you start your day, look at everything that is happening and look at the place that the agenda is empty, and then you just decline it. The core part is you should be the owner of your time. You should not be a victim of your calendar. We're talking about frameworks, right? So you should not have a kind of calendar-driven framework. That's not good product management. How could we justify the expense of customer problem discovery as continuous endeavor, DNA of a good product organization? Well, the question is what happens if we don't do that? So what I say is, depending on your organization, you need to act differently. So I'll try giving a bunch of things here and then you decide what is worth or not. But one of the realizations I had is you need to help people see what you see. There are different ways of doing that. One is touching the most sensitive organ of the human being, which I call the pocket. The moment you touch the pocket, people panic. If you want to talk to the leadership, you start talking about cost. For example, let's say that the cost of each sprint you have is, I don't know, $50,000 or something like that. Then you say each sprint costs this amount and we are working on this. So what happened? If you look at what happened over the last year, how much value did you create? You can look at that and present to management and say, actually half of our investment led to a big zero of return. And you ask the tricky question, is that the way we want to work? And then you can say how you can work differently. Product discovery is what's going to happen. Product discovery helps you learn you're wrong fast enough. And then you can cut the losers and invest in the winners. So it helps you drop bad ideas fast enough. That's how you can justify product discovery. It's true that some organizations will think that we should not invest this time into discovery. Why should we invest? We could just be doing. The challenge is that we are new to digital product management. Physical products, we can industrialize them, we can optimize, and we can be more effective. Because, for example, let's take a product here. If I take this AirPod, so Apple spends some time with R&D and so on, however they create products to come up with this. And then it worked. It's great. But if you want to create this one, it means they will industrialize how it creates. They will make it effective. They will make it very productive. And everyone will get the same thing. But when it comes to digital products, it's a bit different. You have one product that thousands or maybe millions or billions of people are using it. That's a different game, a very different one. And if we fail to do product discovery properly, we end up creating features nobody needs. So that's how we justify. It's about reducing waste. So some companies will choose to learn the hard way, and some companies will decide to learn the easy way. So you need to help them see what you are seeing. One of the quotes I like the most comes from the book Strategize, from actually the book Invincible Company. It's from Alexander Stovalda. He's the CEO of Strategizer. And he wrote something like this: avoid big failures or you're dead. Embrace small failures or you're dead. If you don't do product discovery, you're going to have big failures. And depending on the size of the organization, that can be lethal. And if you do product discovery, you just increase the pace of failing because you confront ideas with reality as fast as possible. Let's take a few more questions here. You can vote. The most voted questions will go to the top. How to manage 2 backlogs for the same product? Hardware, one backlog for app, which controls the hardware, and one for firmware, which runs to manage hardware. Both are in sync. Complex product. I don't know if I can answer this question. I haven't worked with physical products connected with digital ones. The closest thing I had was when I worked in a factory in the automobile industry. I was a software engineer there, and we could create things for the product. We developed some hardware there, but it was a different way, and it was very long ago. I'm not sure I can help with that. I'm very sorry for this. And I would not make up answers because I simply don't know. In general, the only advice I can tell is think about what you want to achieve and how fast you can learn that. I would not suggest having 2 backlogs in general if the outcome you want to achieve is the same. Because if you have one product that you sell, I don't know which product it is, it should have one backlog so you can organize everything there. But I don't know the structure. So this one, I would not go so much into it because probably I'm going to talk nonsense. I don't have experience in this direction. So let's see here. There's one question that popped here to the top now. When you're working with fixed price contract, outsource based culture, how to achieve outcome over output? Sometimes you can't. So there are some things here. If you have a fixed price, you can still work with that. But if you have a fixed price with a fixed scope, then you can't. You can't achieve outcome over output. Because then you will be limited. It's written in a contract that you need to deliver this by the end of the contract. And that's it. A better way of collaborating would be on agreeing a direction. And for example, the customer, why is the customer hiring you? Are they hiring you to extend their capabilities, or are they hiring you to shift risks? Sometimes customers want to shift risk. They don't know if they can deliver something, then you give a price to that, and then the risk is all with you. Then you have to deliver it. But if they are playing a collaborative game, they can say, we don't know how to deliver it, and we have this kind of budget. Then you can work together. So the only way I have seen that you can move from output over outcome to outcome over output in this kind of collaboration is by having trust. And you set contracts based on time and material. How much time are you going to invest on that? So you dedicate a team to work with the client hand in hand and figure out how to achieve the objective, meaning that the scope is variable. You can decide what to do, but the price is fixed. The client knows how much they are investing, but they don't know what they get for, which is true always. They always don't know. And if you commit with something in the very beginning, it's very hard to succeed. One of the things I like people to imagine is when you start a project or anything you are working on, that's what I did when I worked in the agency. You show the client at this very point here, our knowledge, if this is going to fly, it is very limited. So you have a very low knowledge, and the chance, the risk of this going wrong is very high. So it's the worst moment to make a decision that you go all in. It is the best moment to make a decision that you could learn. For example, if you are talking about a project, I don't know, $100,000, I would say, what if you could invest 10,000 to prove if the idea is of any worth? Then you could start from there. But if the client is resistant and say, no, I want to have the scope and I want to have the fixed price, you can't get out of that, because then it will be a service agency provider relationship. The client calls a shot and you have to deliver on that. Jeff Gothelf wrote a lot about it on his book Lean UX. I think the last edition, one of the last chapters is related to that, and he elaborated on the challenge of doing that. So you can also read this to learn more. It's not, I'm talking from my experience, but I was looking at the others, if there is another solution when I worked in the agency, and I related a lot to the work from Jeff of Lean UX, and I got to the same answer that I was facing. It's very hard. It's about trust. So I'm going to take 2 more questions and then we wrap it up. What are your thoughts on best practices with developing products with product teams in the US while the R&D teams are in India? I don't have experience with that. I cannot tell you. I have more experience with co-located teams. So most of my experience I had, the software engineers were part of the same company and we worked directly together. I had experience where I was in Brazil and the software engineers were in Dominican Republic, but they were part of the same company, not agencies. We work under the same payroll. The other experience I would say, maybe it's a little bit similar, is the agency. When I was part of the agency and the clients would be in Europe most of the time, and we worked for them. But in this case, we were very close. So outsourcing to India is something that I have not worked with. So I cannot tell you what are my thoughts on best practices. What I always suggest is don't throw requirements over software engineers. Get them to collaborate with you. So I would always recommend to have co-creation sessions, ideation, so everyone is part of the solution creation. So you understand the problem and you collaborate to work on that. No matter where teams are located, I would always suggest to have this kind of collaboration. First, you understand the problem, then you come up with the solution. Last question. How do you find user engagement for an application when less usage is better? The less customer use an app, it can be better. That's a tricky question. I would need to understand context here. So hard, very hard to answer this one. I would need more information. I don't think I can answer this one. Sorry for that. So as I cannot answer this one, I will try taking another one. How to stop fixing bugs and focus on innovation with limited resource? Time box. So time box, how much time you're going to invest on fixing bugs. The core is to have focus time. If you lack focus time, it will be very hard for you to innovate. If you try switching context all the time, it's not going to work. So if you have too much bugs, maybe you invest a few weeks on cleaning up that on the critical bugs, and then you can focus on innovation, even if you have limited resource. But the core is, what can you do today to focus? So finish one thing. And one of the principles, it's not from me, but I like using it, is start finishing, stop starting. So it's kind of, you serialize instead of parallelizing. Get done one thing and then another and another and another. It's about focusing. All right, so thanks for everyone for staying until the very end. I hope you have enjoyed the session. I expected to have more people. There were more than 500 subscribers here, but you stayed until the end, so I appreciate your time. And if you want to know more about the book, you can just go to my website. I'm very delighted for all the feedback and support I have received. And you can connect with me on LinkedIn, send me a message there, my newsletter. I'm quite accessible. So thanks a lot. So let's rock it. See you next time. For sure, I'm going to host more sessions. I hope all of you benefit. Hope you got some insights. You wanted to get some knowledge from the beginning. I hope I gave you something that you can use today for a better tomorrow. So let's rock it, everyone. Thank you.